Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new SPSM Chat, SPSM Suicide Prevention Social Media. It's my favorite show. I think it's what's happening these days. It's what the cool kids are watching. So why don't you be a cool kid and watch us on Facebook.com/SPSM Chat. Watch us on Twitter.com/SPSM Chat. If you're on Twitter, I just pinned it to the top of our Twitter account. So that's the best way to find it. And we're also on Periscope, which is owned by Twitter. So if you want to have your comments put on screen, the best way for us to see it is on Periscope. But if you are on just Twitter, make sure to use the hashtag SPSM, and then throughout the show, I will show all of your tweets on a screen share, and you're all part of the conversation. YouTube.com/SPSM Chat, Mixer.com/SPSM Chat. Hopefully people watch on Mixer, even though Marie's not here. Don't worry, she'll be back next Sunday. I'll talk more about that at the end of the show. If you're watching this live, and I hope you are, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you care. Let us know that you're a baller by letting us into your homes, onto your screen, burning your retinas with our blue light. Let us know that you're here in the comments. That's always awesome. Make sure to use the hashtag SPSM, especially if you're on Twitter. If you're on Facebook, Mixer, or YouTube, don't feel left out, okay? I'm going to show you some love as well. Ooh, well, I like that name. Let's go back to that in a second. First and foremost, let's get to our co-hosts. First of all, let's go to Joelle.
Hi, my name is Joelle Marie. I am a peer specialist by training. I'm also a mental health consultant, and I do various things online, and I am a member of the American Association of Suicidology, and obviously a co-host here. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I like your new headshot, Joelle.
Thank you.
Danielle Glick, D. Glick, Dr. Glick in training.
I like it. It's better now my face is covered. Hi, guys. I'm Danielle. I'm a child and family therapist, and I am currently finishing up my certification as an alcohol and substance abuse counselor. I have lived experience as a suicide attempt survivor and also someone who has lost a loved one to suicide. And I'm going for my doctorate in clinical psychology, and that's why Rudy always calls me Dr. Glick.
Yes, I appreciate you so much. I'm glad you're back in full force. I know you're doing a lot of stressing out with your studies and everything, so I'm glad you can fit us into your busy, busy life.
I miss you guys.
Of course. And we miss all of you every time we're not doing SPSM, and I'm speaking for all of us. We're sad inside. A part of us is missing because we need part of you out there in internet land to keep us ticking. Last, and certainly most, tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat universe, galaxy, solar system, who is Non Wels.
Hey everyone, yes, my name is Known. There's a little macron over the O to make that long O sound. And I am a writer, a dog lover, lots of lived experience with depression, anxiety, and recovered from anorexia. I host the podcast called You, Me, Empathy. And right now been building this new collaborative mental health space called the Feely Human Collective. Because I'm a feely human, as I think we all are.
How many books do you have in that background?
So many books. Just all of the books.
I'm jealous. I have just a plain whitish background in the back. I feel like even Danielle has a more interesting background than me. So we're talking about eating disorders in males. In case you're wondering, when I say males, I mean all male identifying people, not just cis-hets. So calm down. And we talked about eating disorders in general when we had Katie Gordon on just a couple of months ago. She was awesome. She's the greatest person who ever lived, but she is speaking from a clinician's perspective. She doesn't necessarily have first person lived experience. So I wanted to make sure that we had Known on, who does have that first person lived experience and is in recovery and can talk openly and honestly and appreciatively about eating disorders. And it is National Eating Disorders Awareness Week if you're in the United States of America. And what better timing than to have Known on, who's a good personal friend of mine. We've hung out with each other. We've had our dogs play. My dog kicked one of his horses. So we are as close can be. And so show him some love, okay? Danielle, say something nice about Known right now.
Oh my God.
I'm really proud of you for doing the hard work to get to where you're at right now. I have a very close friend who just left treatment for eating disorder. My mother also, when I was younger, battled with anorexia, so I've seen it firsthand. And I know that it takes a lot of hard work to get to where you are. So I'm proud of you and support you in your recovery.
Oh, thanks. That's kind. And to be clear, I consider myself recovered. I'm 38 now, and I would say my recovery period in this, it was basically 18 to 28 or so. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Question number 1, and that is, what are some factors that may lead to someone with an eating disorder to be suicidal? So if you're on Twitter, you know the deal by now, standard Twitter chat. Reply to that tweet that was just tweeted out by the SPSM Chat account. Hopefully you're following it. Reply with that with A1 and then Q2, A2, so on and so forth. Make sure to use the hashtag SPSM. Now, if you are on Facebook or YouTube or Mixer, don't feel left out. Still feel free to comment. You don't have to use the hashtag or anything like that. I can still show your comments on screen, like Jennifer Nancy. Thank you for proving that that works. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get into this conversation about eating disorders, and let's take it away, Joelle.
Do we want to have Known talk about that first, or are we going to do
That is correct. I keep you on your toes, though, but let's go with Known.
I like how kind and thoughtful the way Joelle did that. So, I mean, I can speak from my experience only because I was suicidal at the time that I was experiencing my sort of the throes of my anorexia, and I think the things that contributed to those feelings were certainly feeling alone, feeling unsafe, feeling out of control, my sort of willingness to, or sort of draw to try to find control in my eating disorder wasn't working anymore. Certainly feeling unseen. I think unsafe and unseen and alone were huge parts of, that led to kind of me feeling suicidal. Yeah. Are you guys still there? Yeah.
Yes, let's take it to Joelle.
Okay. I feel like there's some kind of like weird sound thing going on. What are some factors that may lead to someone with an eating disorder to be suicidal? Just so everybody knows, it's easier for me to read the question, so I have them like written down, and that's why I'm looking down. I definitely think that, first of all, like, I've had some disordered eating. I have not, I don't know. I want to say this as delicately as I can. I have not been diagnosed with an eating disorder. I've had very disordered eating patterns, which has come with quite a few challenges. And for me, that experience for me, a lot of it has been that, first of all, there's the experience itself. And then there's also like for me, if you are not looking like, and I imagine in a way for males, they're not expected to have disordered eating or eating disorders. Women who are larger are not expected to have eating disorders or disordered eating. And so I think for me, that was even more difficult. So that could definitely contribute, I think, to feeling suicidal. And also the feeling of just having it slowly spin out of control. But definitely not feeling like you would be taken seriously if you actually were to seek help, because you don't fit this idea of who experiences eating disorders.
It's a really good point. And I think, sorry, I'm just going to comment on Joelle's. Those are great points, Joelle, and I love especially this idea that, because I believe, and the studies show there's so much disordered eating just culturally, with diet culture, etc. And I think there's this weird, I don't know if it's a stigma or some sort of weird, like, oh, you have to be diagnosed to like have the thing or struggle with the thing. And just because someone isn't diagnosed doesn't mean you can't struggle, doesn't mean you can't be in pain. And I think that's just a crucial point to mention. So thank you.
Yes, and real quick, before we get to Danielle, we had a question on Twitter about how do you define excessive exercise, and I'm assuming that's a question towards Known.
Well, to be perfectly clear, I am not a therapist, so disclaimer up front. I'm just a silly boy with lots of lived experience. Also, I like dogs. But I certainly did a fair amount of, I would call overexercise during my, when it started when I was 17 to, maybe early 20s. And I would say anything that, and this is just for me again, anytime I used exercise and specifically running to drown out emotional pain, which is a thing I did, right? You run to feel physical pain to sort of try to drown out emotional pain. Anything that's sort of bumping up against sort of classic self-care for yourself, I would say just check in with yourself. If you feel like you are overexercising, you probably are. If you have nagging injuries, overuse injuries, you might be overexercising. You might be overdoing it. So just check in with yourself and check in with your feelings. And I would start there.
Now let's take it to Danielle, and let's put the question back on screen for those who may just be joining us.
So I'm sure that you and Rudy and Joelle already know. So I used to work in a psychiatric facility where there was a department specifically for people with eating disorders or disordered eating, however you want to say it. And I noticed that there was a common theme, that there was constantly co-occurring diagnoses. Typically, some of the people that I worked with hands-on were diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, bipolar depression. And so I do feel that a lot of these people, in communicating with me, what led them to treatment was that they had started restricting food or over-exercising or doing whatever it was that they did as a method of coping with their mental health condition. And a lot of these people oftentimes expressed that a big part of it was that they felt they had no control over their body, so it was easy to control what they ate. And it was the same with coping with their mental health condition. So I feel like lack of understanding on a personal level of, what it is people are feeling or how to control what they're feeling can increase suicidal thoughts and feelings for people in this population. And I think that a big part of it that feeds into the suicidal aspect of it too is the stigma, especially with men. men in our society, and I'm glad that there's a better conversation about it now. Like, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to feel, but like, men have the same type of issues that women deal with, and it's just not talked about enough, which is why I was so excited about tonight's episode. Because I do know a lot of men who have, exercise anorexia, people who are binge eaters that are men. One of my closest friends has had to have been hospitalized maybe 3 or 4 times for anorexia. And I think this is a very, very important topic, and there's a lot of different reasons, but it's about the individual. Like, I could sit here as the therapist on the panel and be like, this is common and this is common, but I'm not going to do that because it's different. It's different for everybody. And like you said, it's important to recognize that you don't actually have have to have the diagnosis in order to have the problem. I have body dysmorphic disorder, and I'm not being treated for it, but I have been diagnosed with it in the past. It's just, I'm more aware of it myself. So that's my contribution to this question.
Well, thank you all. And now I want to hear from the people on Twitter. I think we have a couple comments on Facebook as well, but let's take it to the Twitter. Let's just go back a little bit. So I love the people that are introducing themselves. Awesome people like Krista, who's multitasking and is able to also produce our show as well, doing all the different camera transitions and throwing up graphics. I really appreciate that. Studying human services and psychology at SE University. I'm a suicide prevention advocate with lived experience. I appreciate that. Danielle, who is also a marvelous person. Do not follow her on Twitter.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Do not try to DM her. I will fuck you. Therapist currently finishing certification as an alcohol and substance abuse counseling lived experience, both as an attempt and loss survivor. Who's watching tonight? That is the real question. Let us know. Everyone out there in internet land. Joelle says our SPSM Chat guest tonight is Non Wels. Thank you for doing the special O symbol. Has started what is the name of that symbol known?
It's called a macron.
There we
Gives
go.
it that long O sound.
I had to Google for that and paste it into all my tweets. Has started a great project and platform called the Feely Human Collective. Check it out on Twitter at Feely Human and help him get started with the feels, being human and being a hashtag Feely Human. So we will definitely talk about that at the end. I know you're on the last day of your fundraising campaign. So if we raise you $1 by the end of tonight, mission accomplished. That's really all this show is about. So Krista Marie says in response to question number 1, says, speaking from my own lived experience, times I've struggled with disordered eating have also been when I've struggled most with suicidality. Feeling like situations were outside of my control was definitely a big factor for both hashtag SPSM. Joelle says eating disorders seem very vulnerable to invalidation. Having your experience invalidated, I think, can always be a factor. Not being seen can be a factor. When people who were not quote unquote expected have eating disorders, there's a tendency to invalidate, criticize, alienate. Thanks to Marshall for posting that research as well. I think I retweeted it, so that's good enough for me. So Marshall says, in the middle of writing at work for next week, so it's no problem. Gives me a break from it. And again, that's what SPSM Chat is. It's a way for you to abandon the things that are truly important and pretend like we are the most important thing in your life. And when you fake it, you eventually make it. And lo and behold, before you know it, we're all you've got in your life. SPSM Chat, suicide prevention, social media. Question number 2. And that is a doozy. How can we as friends / loved ones best support someone with an eating disorder? Let's go with known.
Yeah, so I remember when I was sort of first coming to terms with my eating disorder and trying to recover, which I never sought treatment. I just kind of did it on my own, which I think was a result of the time. This was 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I'm old, everyone. But what you should not do is, someone very close to me said to me, you should not tell them to just go eat a sandwich which is what I was told. So don't do that. But what you should do is make sure that the person knows that you love them. Don't imply that, it's some sort of character flaw. There are tremendous resources out there like Project Heal or NEDA, inpatient, outpatient programs that are tremendous. But I think the biggest thing is to express your love and care and support, and also, if you do feel like they are, in danger of losing their life, endangering their life, which was the case for me, you be sort of stern and be clear and tell them that you're worried that they're going to die, and that you care about them and you don't want that to happen. So you start with love, I think, and you make sure that they know that is the big one for me.
Can I just say, Known, I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Rudy.
I can't wait to turn the cameras off. I just want to say that we are going to hang out very soon, okay? So as soon as we're done with this live stream, we're going to make something happen. Calendars will be taken out, my friend. So let's take it to Joelle.
How can we as friends / loved ones best support someone with an eating disorder? I definitely think, for me, stuff like that, it's really definitely meeting somebody where they're at, which is always a thing for everything for me. But, for me, I definitely needed people to kind of like follow my lead. So, and not invalidate what I'm saying. So if I'm saying like, I'm feeling a certain way about my body, like I'm not feeling very good about it, just like responding with platitude isn't always the most helpful thing, because it feels like you might not be understanding what I'm saying, or you might not be listening to what I'm saying, or listening for the reality of how I'm feeling. So, and I also definitely, with that invalidation thing, is that like somebody can look at another person's body or how they present and think one thing, but that doesn't always reflect how the person actually feels. So definitely not invalidating them. Whenever you see somebody, I always think in general, just not bringing up compliments or bringing attention to only compliment them on their physical appearance. Unless they're like, hey, check out this thing that I did, then you could be like, yeah, good for you. You seem to feel happy about that, and I'm happy you're happy. And I think that's always really important too, because like emphasizing that physical appearance is the only important thing about somebody isn't really the best thing, in my opinion. But if somebody's happy, you can emphasize you're happy, they're happy. And I think that's a great way to support somebody, that their happiness is most important and how they get happy is secondary. So I don't know, definitely emphasizing that you love them and care about them. And even if you have to come up with like 15 different compliments and good things you can say about them when you see them, or mention to them that don't have anything to do with their appearance, and practice that. If you love somebody, you're going to do that.
I agree. I want to say something again. Let's put the camera back on Known. I just want to say, I love you, Known.
I love you too, Rudy. I also love Joelle and Danielle. We love each other. It's just a bunch of feely humans sharing our feelings. It's wonderful. It's a love sandwich.
I just want to say that it is bullshit that we are like separated through these computers, that we can't just all go up to each other right now and just hug and just be alive.
That's what we're doing. We're connecting.
Yes.
We're meeting each other where we are.
Speaking of alive, what say you, Danielle, to question number 2?
How to support a friend or a loved one, correct? That was the question?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think it's funny that this is the question because I literally just had a conversation with my friend that I shared earlier, was just in inpatient treatment for her anorexia. And I asked her, I was like, what is it that's really been helping you this whole time as you're going through your journey? And aside from, the answer that you guys had of love, she said, the fact that people didn't stop treating her as though she was her. Because she felt like one of her biggest fears in coming out and saying that she had an eating disorder and that she needed treatment for the eating disorder was that people were going to change their perception of her and not treat her treat her much more fragile than she already was. And it helped her tremendously with accepting what was going on with her, to have her friends continue to ask her to hang out and do this and do that. Sometimes some of the people that she was in treatment with had expressed to her, she had shared this with me, that one thing that really bothered them was that people, like you had said, Non, would say to them, here, have a sandwich. But she said that a lot of them also had the same response, that they didn't want to have the topic of food avoided because it just furthered feeling different for them. So in supporting someone with an eating disorder, in my own personal opinion, would be to just continue to be present and show them love and to give them an empathetic, meeting them where they are. It's trying to work with what it is that they need rather than what you think they need. Actually listen and pay attention.
You know what's awesome? I just realized that I've got your Twitter handle just completely wrong. I have no idea how many weeks we've gone through with that. Like, just, I am so. I was going for a perfect show this week too, and my apologies. Let's do that again. That is not even close. But don't worry about me. I want to hear from the people on Facebook. So, Kevix Marks, who is one of our most profound Facebook commenters, I appreciate that, says, any thoughts on Greta Thunberg? I do not know who that is. Hopefully Joelle does. She is raising her hand, so we'll let her have it. Who is written about as having stopped eating and later diagnosed as autistic. What say you, Joelle?
So there's a lot of crossover, there's a lot of misdiagnosis actually for female autistics to first be diagnosed as anorexic or to have eating disorder not otherwise specified. And a lot of it has to do with sensory issues when eating. First of all, sensory issues that are like the more obvious ones, which is, the sensations you get when eating, but also stuff like interoception, which is understanding and being able to feel and determine what's going on inside your body. So you might literally not understand that you're hungry, or even like understand that you have to go to the bathroom, understand that you're hot or cold, or realize that you're tired without a lot of thought going into it. So preteen autistic girls, and younger teenage autistic girls, especially who seem to present as more of what it used to be thought of as Asperger's. If they're having a lot of sensory issues with interoception and it's manifesting as eating issues, and there's a lot of sensory issues with food, the tendency is often that there's an eating disorder, more on that end than to see them as autistic. And hopefully it gets sorted out later on. And if it doesn't get sorted out, sometimes it ends up becoming an actual eating disorder. So.
And I see your question, Salty Meg, is anorexia a slow form of suicide? Let's come back to that at the end, because I feel like that's a question that I think we might even answer by the end of this show, just through our discussion. So let's get on to question number 3 now. Question number 3. What are some coping skills someone with an eating disorder and feeling suicidal might find helpful? Take it away, Non.
Yeah, I mean, so in my experience, I guess the skills that I developed, waking up, trying to breathe. I mean, at the time it was so difficult, but I think there was a clear moment I remember where the doctor had asked, like, or the doctor told me basically, like, unless you do something drastically, your heart's going to stop. And it was that moment where I realized, okay, I don't in fact want to die. And so I think for me, that was a reflective moment of, okay, my life does matter. I matter, my heart matters. I have much to give and much love to give the world. And I think that's a statement that I try to remind myself often. And it's certainly one that has been helpful in times where I have been suicidal, even in recent years, reminding myself that I am worthy, I deserve love. I think one of the things that I'm working on in therapy is like kind of rewriting this old story that I need to be in pain as a human. But the fact is that I don't, and we can change our old stories. You know, they become part of our identities, but we can change that. It's uncomfortable, but you can do it. Sorry, I'm blathering on. I think a big one is learning to sit in our feelings and understanding that they are impermanent. They are guideposts. We need to be curious about them, but they don't stay forever. So that's an important piece. Another important thing for me has been just breathing, controlling my breathing, deep breathing exercises, things like that. But also, more tactical things like crisis text lines, having someone to talk to, having someone, in your phone as like your sort of 911 person, having those close relationships are important. So that's what I have to say about that.
What does Joelle have to say about that?
What are some coping skills someone with an eating disorder and feeling suicidal might find helpful? So, I mean, a little bit in my experience, which I think was different because a lot of my experience was not focused around my eating, but around my body, how my body looks to other people. So it's other people telling me what they think about my body. But also I've had some very dear friends go through some very severe health issues with eating disorders. So combining all that, I do definitely think that whatever the focus is in the particular eating disorder situation, not making everything 24/7 working on that, because that can consume you. Recovery can just consume you, and you can feel lost, and you can start to feel hopeless a little bit too, even if you are, according to others, doing better. You can start to feel like that's not in your control. So I definitely think, finding other things that can be a focus that's going to interrupt that's going to disrupt that feeling of constantly having to work and work and work, because you don't want that to take over your life. You don't want recovery to take over your life just in place. You want to have a new, better quality life. So definitely, finding things that you truly enjoy instead of things that are just getting you through to the next moment.
Danielle Glick.
I'm always fearful about how therapist-y my answers are going to be, so I apologize in advance. But again, going back to my favorite saying, it's meeting a person where they are. So I feel like if I give you some generalized coping skills, they're not going to be relevant to like literally everybody. So going off what was already said, I think that it's important to find what works for you. I know that there's a lot of people that I've worked with who found so much relief in, therapeutic art activities, or, just writing or sitting outside. It's finding support through their social circles or going to therapy. I think that these coping skills are something that have to be developed individually. I mean, what works for me is working on the negative thinking patterns that I always have, whether I'm in therapy. Let's be honest, my brain is always in therapy because I'm a therapist and I'm studying how to be a better therapist and more therapy. And I go to therapy. There's just, it's a lot. But I'm constantly trying to change the distorted way that I view myself, because I was totally fine with my body image until I was in an abusive relationship where I was told how disgusting I was almost every day for 2 years. And I heard it so often that I started to believe all of that. And people are always like, oh, you're beautiful, you've got a nice body. But you know what? I could hear it, doesn't mean I digest it. So what works for me is trying to focus on things that I do like about my appearance or about myself and try to expand on those. And sometimes I do write, sometimes I'll draw. I mean, it's just whatever works for me in that moment. And I feel like those things have also been tools that have gotten me through suicidal ideation and suicide attempts in the past. It's just, you know, sometimes what I've done in the past doesn't always work right now. So it's trying to amend to where I'm at. And that's also the same thing that I do when I'm working with people directly.
Thank you, Danielle. Let's take it to Twitter now, and let's we got a couple to catch up on question number 2 real quick. So Anya, who I finally get to meet at AAS 2020, just in April, next month, Jesus Christ. So that'll be exciting, says, in response to question number 2, be there for them, check in on them, and show that you care. This may seem obvious. Avoid comments about appearances. You look healthier. Their eating, lack of eating, and their weight, even what you may think is a compliment, you look so skinny, can be damaging. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Great points, Anya. Danielle, who says, be present, meet them where they are. Some are more comfortable than others with verbiage. So be mindful, but continue to treat people as the people they are, not their diagnosis. And that's a great point, Danielle. If someone who is on a weight loss journey loves getting compliments about their appearance, that's just one person, okay? That person does not speak for everyone. So just be mindful of that, people out there in the world. Don't be like, oh, but you should be flattered that I'm complimenting you. Just take the compliment. Why do you have to be a dick about it?
Sometimes that can be more damaging.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. Krista, in response to question number 3, says, a big thing for me was always finding alternative outlets / things I could do. If sometimes you have to be a dick about things, otherwise you're just going to keep being a doormat. How to handle what I was feeling. For me, that's been writing, doing art, etc. I've also found it helpful to let myself focus on what I can control in healthy ways, color-coded schedules, etc. Danielle says, quote, learning to sit with our feelings and understand they are not permanent, which was said by our good friend and expert guest this week, Non Wels. Tom Crook, who is back again, who is getting credits for his college class, I'm assuming, says, speak love. This is a response to question number 2. Speak love and listen. Everyone wants to be known and seen for who they really are, that thing inside that does the thinking. Give of yourself and make real connections. You'll save lives. Hey, Tom, I don't see your other friends here tonight. Are they skipping out, Tom? I want to know. Get them on. Get them on twitter.com/SPSM Chat. Thank you. Anya goes on to...
Sorry.
Give me 1 second. Just let me read this last couple tweets. Anya, in response to question number 3, says, I saw at Hope Virgo on Instagram with a recovery box filled with items she finds helpful related to eating disorders and her recovery. Items included eating disorder, info, worksheets, personal letters, etc. It looked like a very nice collection of tools to have in difficult times. And then finally, Tom says, to question number 3, says, stay busy, serve others. Nothing lifts our own spirits better than lifting those of others. Thank you, Tom. Let's go back to Non. I know you had something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to comment on what we've all really been talking about, which is like figuring out and knowing what is safe to us. I think we're commenting on the people who say, oh, you look nice and you look healthy or whatever. That may feel unsafe to some of us, right? So, and Danielle saying like, it is truly unique to each of us. But I think so it's really, the onus is on each of us. And we can help each other do this, but it's to find what is safe and what what does safe mean to us? Safe in our communities, safe to feel our feelings, safe to open up and be vulnerable. What is safe? So safety is a huge part of it.
Thank you. And before we get on to our fourth and final question, just want to highlight Josh, who is on Facebook, says shows and groups focusing on matters of the mind are very rare. What you see on TV, Dr. Phil et al., are more sensational or entertainer directed. This show is awesome. He's talking about us, everyone. It has the potential of saving lives, healing minds. Bravo, thanks.
Dr. Danielle, that's what the show is, right?
Yes, Dr. Danielle. I like that. Let's keep that. Krista, can you change the logo right now just so it just reads Dr. Danielle?
Dr. Danielle.
Yeah, just keep the colors and everything. We'll wait and no, we're just kidding. Question number 4. Question number 4, the fourth and final question. But just know, if you're watching this later on, watching it out of order, don't worry. Still feel free to respond to the other questions. Okay, that's fine. I'll accept that. Question number 4, in all seriousness though. Question number 4. What are some steps we as a society can take to make it safer for males to talk about eating disorders? Take it away, Known.
Yeah, I mean, I do get asked this question a lot, or a variance of this question, because I am an identified man and someone who's recovered from anorexia. And I understand why that question is asked, because there's so much in our society and culture that permeates, this sort of character of man, which is this, beacon of strength, unwavering and never crying. And I think that still exists, and it's wild that it still exists. So I think the more we can do to dispel those ideas, in our writing, in our media literacy, in our parenting, in our friendships, I think it's important to call it out when it happens, in a kind, empathetic way. I tried to do that myself as someone who is a feely human, and as someone who is male, because there is, I think it does damage. And I think it starts certainly with parenting, teaching young boys to feel and lead with their hearts, and that crying is okay and welcome and a part of being human. And I think the more we put out there into the world that recognizes and comments on the fact that we are all truly in this together, and on this pale blue dot journey together as humans, first, I think is very important. And then obviously just have empathy, focus on compassion. Certainly we need to improve our education when it comes to these types of things. But yeah, I'm a man and I love to cry, and feelings are the best. Feelings have helped me as a human grow and connect with other humans and share my story, and that heals others. It's healing. That's all about healing. So, that's what I have to say.
I can't wait to cry with you someday, Known.
Oh man, we're gonna have a love and cry fest.
Pixar
Yes.
didn't happen.
Oh yeah, we'll do video.
Yeah, that's another way to make money on the side, Known. Just like have people pay you to cry with them.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, light bulbs go off. What
At
say
the end
you,
of that.
Joelle?
I think Known should be offering that as part of the Patreon.
It's the $100 tier.
What are some steps we as a society can take to make it safer for males to talk about eating disorders? I do definitely think, this idea of masculinity and what it is and isn't. And like Known said, the idea that it's just like this one thing, this one beacon of strength thing, and you don't cry and you don't show your feelings, and it can literally eat you up.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we see as a society, not every single person, but collectively as a society. I can't say society for some reason. So as a culture, as a collective group of people, we see eating disorders as a non-male thing. And I'm not entirely sure why, but we see it as not masculine, not male, not, it makes you not a man. And I don't really get that. I don't really understand it. But I do definitely think that, that this idea harms us all, harms everyone, every single person in the world to some degree. These harmful ideals of masculinity and what it means to be a man and what it doesn't mean to be a man. I think that making open spaces to speak more, not calling it a weakness to share vulnerability, because honestly, it's fucking hard to be vulnerable. Like, that's not an easy thing. So why are we telling people that when they are vulnerable, they are weak? They are not. It is a very difficult thing to say, hi, this is a part of me that is soft and I am exposing that to you. That's very fucking hard. So we need to stop saying that that's weak and it's not strong. And we need to just support each other and encourage the feeling of feelings. That's all I have to say about that.
What does Danielle have to say about that?
That you're all beautiful. Isn't that what I say every episode? So I feel like I'm going to smash everything that you both just said. So to me, I think this makes me really angry how our society doesn't accept that men have mental health conditions and eating disorders and this, that, and the other thing. Reflecting while you guys were talking on all of the people that I've lost to substance abuse and suicide and all that stuff. One woman. And the most attractive quality to me in a significant other is their ability to be vulnerable. And I feel like it's so fucking annoying, excuse my language, that we can't just talk out loud about all of these things. Why is it okay to talk about women with anorexia but not men with anorexia? Because it exists. Men have depression, men die by suicide, men have eating disorders. It just needs to stop. And I'm in this position with the work that I do, working with children. For the majority of the time that I've been in this field, the past couple of years, most of the people on my caseload are little boys. And I feel like I'm in a really, really awesome position where I can work with their parents and work with these boys on being accepting of their vulnerabilities. And some of these kids come to me, not because of actual mental health diagnoses or need for medication or whatever it is that people think you have to go to therapy for. Some people just come because they're having family issues. And it's really great, like you had mentioned, that, stuff needs to start with the parents. And so I get to talk to them it's okay if your son is crying. Let him cry. And instead of telling him to stop crying, go sit with him, comfort him. We need to comfort each other instead of shaming each other. We need to listen when the other person's speaking. Because I feel like more often than not, people tell you what they need. It's just a matter of whether or not you're listening, and that's applicable to literally everything across the board, or at least with what I deal on a daily basis at work. It's just listening, actively listen, really hear what a person is saying, and stop making people feel like this is not normal to talk about, because everybody is affected in some way, shape, or form by something. So I want to empower men. That's my jam.
Will I ever be able to cry with you, Danielle?
What?
Will I ever be able to cry with you?
I would love to cry with you. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do the conference, so we can't cry in April. I'll cry on my couch, missing you guys.
I will send you a vial of my tears. How about that?
I would really appreciate that. I'll wear it around my neck. Say these are man tears.
Yes. Speaking of appreciation, let's take it to final thoughts. And whatever platform you are on, make sure to let us hear your final thoughts as well. Let's get into it. Let's get into final thoughts with Known, and then we'll talk about the the Feely Human Collective at the end. Hope that's okay, Known.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'll just jump off what Danielle says about listening to each other, and that is truly what empathy is, right? We need to put more empathy out into the world. Life is too fucking hard to make it more complex by abiding by these cultural artifices and presuming things about another person's heart. So take people as they are, see them for who they are, accept them and love them just as they are. You're going to get a lot more in life out of that in doing that. You're going to make a lot more thoughtful and heartfelt and heart-led connections by doing that. And don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Joelle.
Sorry, I was posting something. This is why I fucking love Node, because he's like, just believe people. And yes, just believe people. Believe people when they tell you that they are hurting. Believe them when they say, I'm going to be vulnerable with you, and these are the things I'm feeling. And just be there for them. And that doesn't necessarily mean overextend yourself. And that it doesn't even mean doing this like this grand act. Sometimes it's just being there and believing them as they are presenting themselves. And really, if we could just do that, not everything would be 100% fixed, because like no one said, the world's hard and life is hard. But like we could do a little better. Like we need to start fucking believing people for what they're saying they're experiencing and what they're feeling and what they're going through and have gone through. So just start doing that, please. Thank you.
Yes. And final thoughts, Danielle.
Joelle is so fucking pretty. That was my final thought. Good night, everybody. No, I just.
Can you comment besides her appearance, please?
I was getting there. Now, and so, I just like I've been saying, emphasizing it's empathy, it's active listening, it's being present, it's believing people, it's I just want there to continue to be a platform in which men are accepted as the vulnerable human beings that they pretend not to be. Like I said, I think vulnerability is so attractive, not just in men, but in like everybody. And I think that it would, we should just all not be afraid. Let's just all be ourselves. And I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I love you all. I've been writing papers all day. I think my brain just finally shut off. So that's it. Whatever. I'm done.
How's the Facebook page going, Danielle?
Which Facebook page?
The Danielle Click MS. How can we help boost those numbers?
I think you just did.
There we go. I'm sure at least Known will like the page now.
I mean, I also have an Instagram account. I'm trying to slowly start to like social media myself, because I'll be licensed and can take private patients soon instead of through an agency.
Nice.
So yeah, boosting my presence.
You're slowly becoming a brand.
I'm trying to become a brand. I'm trying. I have to LLC and do tons and tons of scary things, so it's fun.
We're watching you blossom before our very eyes.
We're all here for you.
Yes. So, hi, everyone. I'm Rudy Caceres, at Rudy Caceres on Twitter. Surprise, surprise. I'm also at SPSM Chat on Twitter. So go follow that page. Final thoughts from Rudy. When in doubt, just eat it. Fuck Jillian Michaels. Let's go to read real quickly. Katie Gordon, who is an eating disorder expert who we had on recently, said, I had to miss this tonight, but I'm so glad you covered this important, under-discussed topic, and I look forward to watching it soon. Well, I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you in person too, Dr. Catherine Gordon. Go follow her if you haven't already. She is amazing. So let's talk about the Feely Human Collective. Let's do our little Brady Bunch thing. Known, take it away. What is the Feely Human Human Collective, and how much money do we need to give you tonight?
All of it.
You don't need to give me any money. Yeah. So as Rudy and Joelle know very well, I have a podcast called You Me Empathy, and I created it because more safe spaces need to be in the world. And I'm building the Feel Human Collective because I want to sort of level up my game in a sense. So it's going to be launching to the public in March, and it'll be initially an online space for Feel Humans like us to come and write. There'll be a curated journal. New episodes of the podcast on Fridays called Feely Human Friday, where anyone can come and share a little bit of their story and get a little vulnerable. There'll also be a little shop with some Feely pins and T-shirts and things. And then I'm developing the first workshop for the launch in March, and then have others developing workshops all around sort of developing our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. So phase 1 is sort of like the online space. Later phases will be workshops in businesses and schools and retreats and things like that. But yeah, it's something I believe in with my whole heart, and I'm very excited. And it's just me building the thing, so it's a lot and overwhelming at times, but it's what I need to be doing. So I'm excited. So what am I saying? Yeah. So go to feelyhuman.co and people can, there's a few hours left of the crowdfunding. You don't need to give me money, but sign up for the email list there. I'm mostly active on Instagram at feelyhuman and at YouMeEmpathy. But I'm also on Twitter at subject plus verb at feelyhuman and at YouMeEmpathy, and on Facebook. And I'm not on TikTok. I don't know what that is. I'm too old.
Did you know that there's...
And I can't stop TikToking. It's really bad.
You're a TikToker?
We'll have you run the SPSM account.
I have to TikTok.
Hey, Known, did you know that there's seven different posts on Instagram that use the hashtag Non Wels?
No, I didn't.
There we go. So we usually have a piggy update at the end from our other co-host, Hudson, who's on assignment. Shout out to Marie as well, who'll be back next week. Do we have a horsey update from you, Known?
I have a horsey update. The horses are alive and well, and they love to eat apples from your hand. Any alpaca updates from you, Rudy?
No, okay. Don't get me started on the alpaca. It is coming, and you will all know when I get the alpaca, it will be revealed on SPSM Chat. We're gonna do a whole episode on alpacas on suicide. You'll love it. It'll be amazing. But until then, a part of me is not complete.
Didn't you get a new puppy in the last few months, Known?
So that's a sad story in a way, because we did foster a little puppy named Humphrey, who was the sweetest dog, but he also had a couple of cluster seizures one night, and it was very traumatic for all of us. And we took him to the emergency room, spent $5,000 making sure everything was okay, and then we were basically had alarms 4 times a day, getting him 4 to 5 different medications, and I had to stay at home. We weren't sleeping, and it was just too much. So we gave him back to what's the company? Marley's Mutts, which is a great organization, and they took him back. And it was great, and he's with them, and they're taking care of him. But it was just too much money, and we just couldn't do it. So it was really hard as doggo lovers, but we cried a lot. But he's back.
Well, on that note, that's going to do it for this week SPSM Chat. Thank you, Non Wels. I really appreciate that. You're the kind of person who I could talk to for years and years and years. But I admire you for taking time out. I know it's a busy time for you with all the projects you got going on. So thank you so much. I'm glad we were finally able to make this work. Next Sunday, what can we expect, Joelle?
I'm not going to be here next Sunday. You're not going to be here next Sunday.
Yeah, I mean,
You're here next Sunday.
Yes, so next week we're having another special episode. Marie, aka Anxiety, is going to be taking over as main host, who's amazing, as you already know, everyone out there. And she's going to be talking with who the fuck? Quentin Lawson, talking about childhood trauma, and he also makes YouTube videos as well, and has a book coming out soon called Ruminating. So that will be awesome. I trust Marie. Give her the keys to the kingdom. She's going to be amazing. Her co-host will be Danielle and Hudson. So that is an interesting trio in of itself. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you, Danielle. I appreciate you, Joelle. I appreciate you.
You're right.
Appreciate you. Yes, Joelle, what?
Okay. I just want to say, like, as has been said, I personally know Non Wels, and he is a great guy, and he's fully dedicated to whatever he does. So please visit those links that we put up. Please at least find out what he's doing before you're like, nah, not so much. Please, please, please. He's a great guy, and he really adds a lot to the world, and he adds a lot to mental health, wellness, and connection. So please, please, please. I never do this. I'm doing this now. Thank you.
Yeah, follow my lead. I just followed all of your social media stuff like 5 seconds ago. So everyone else should do it too.
Thank you all. I love you. We're going off air. Don't worry. We'll be back. Until next week.
Bye.
Hold your piggies close. Shut up. Hold your piggies close.